Welcome to AI Horror Stories, where we delve into the chilling world of the unexplained. Tonight, we've explored 3 terrifying tales. One gloomy Sunday, the haunting story of a song said to drive people to suicide, and the tragic fate of its composer. 2 Girl on Fire, the tragic tale of Condi Cunningham, a student burned alive, whose tormented spirit is said to still haunt the halls of Montevallo University. 3 The Fourth Floor, a chilling encounter in an elevator that stops on a forbidden floor, revealing a dark history and a lingering presence. Warning: this story contains sensitive subjects of suicide that may be upsetting for some listeners. One Gloomy Sunday. Gloomy Sunday is an urban legend about an old song written by Hungarian composer, Retso Seres. They say that many people have killed themselves after listening to this song, and it is often called the Hungarian suicide song. If you decide to listen to the song, be very careful. Retso Seres was born in Hungary. In 1933, he was a struggling composer who had never written a hit song. After his girlfriend left him, he was so depressed that he wrote the song that made him famous. Originally, the title was Veg a Villainyak, which is Hungarian for the end of the world. The song was later retitled Somara Vasárnap, which means Gloomy Sunday. At first, music publishers would have nothing to do with the song, saying it was too depressing. Eventually, it was released and became a huge success. Delighted that he had finally written a hit, Seres contacted the ex-girlfriend who inspired the song and attempted to get back together with her. The next day, she killed herself by swallowing poison, leaving behind a note with just 2 words written on it: Gloomy Sunday. As time went on, Gloomy Sunday was connected to a rash of suicides in Hungary. In all, 17 people died. 2 people shot themselves while listening to a band playing the tune. Several others drowned themselves in a river while clutching the sheet music of Gloomy Sunday. People began to refer to it as the suicide song, and there were rumors that it was cursed. The Hungarian authorities banned the song from being played in public. However, this did not stop the rash of suicides. In Berlin, a young shopkeeper hung herself. Beneath her feet, they found a copy of Gloomy Sunday. In New York, a pretty secretary gassed herself, leaving behind her a request that Gloomy Sunday be played at her funeral. In Vienna, a teenage girl drowned herself while clutching the sheet music. In Budapest, a shopkeeper killed himself and left a note containing the lyrics of the song. In London, a woman took an overdose of pills while listening to the record over and over. The song's eerie reputation quickly spread around the world, and music publishers from America decided to cash in on its notoriety. They released an English translation of the song, and it soon caught on. More deaths followed. In the early 1940s, the song was banned in England because it was deemed too upsetting for the public. The ban was only recently lifted, in 2002. Even the song's composer could not escape the curse. Retso Seres was haunted by all the deaths and destruction his music had caused, saying, "I stand in the midst of this deadly success as an accused man. This fatal fame hurts me. I cried all of the disappointments of my heart into this song, and it seems that others with feelings like mine have found their own hurt in it." In 1968, he committed suicide by jumping out the window of his Budapest apartment building and falling to his death. Over the years, the song has been recorded by a number of artists, including Billie Holiday, Ray Charles, Sinead O'Connor, Elvis Costello, Sarah McLachlan, Sarah Brightman, Heather Nova, and Bjork. 2 Girl on Fire. Girl on Fire is a true ghost story about a young girl named Condi Cunningham who was burned alive at the University of Montevallo in Alabama. Back in 1908, it was called Alabama Girls Industrial School, and Condi Cunningham was one of the students who lived on the 4th floor of the main residence hall. Late one night, Condi and her friends were using a burner to make hot chocolate in her room. This was against the rules, but Condi and her friends were doing it anyway. They were all sitting on Condi's bed in their nightgowns, when someone accidentally knocked over the burner. The bed caught fire, and so did Condi Cunningham's nightgown. She began to panic and ran down the hallway screaming for help. Now, as most people know, running is the worst thing you can do when you're on fire. You're supposed to drop on the ground and roll around. But unfortunately, Condi didn't know that. She ran up and down the hallway screaming for help, and this only fanned the flames. The flames grew larger and larger, completely consuming her body. Her friends could only watch in horror as Condi finally collapsed and died. Her body was burned to a crisp. Ever since her death, Condi Cunningham's ghost has haunted the 4th floor of the old residence hall. Students living on that floor have reported hearing the horrifying screams of a girl echoing through the hallways. Others have heard footsteps running up and down the hall when no one is there. Some have even heard a girl's voice crying, "Help me." Late one night, a girl who was staying in Condi's old room heard noises outside her door. When she opened her door, she was shocked to see a fiery apparition running down the hallway, its body burned and blackened as flames blazed around it like a human torch. When the girl went back to her room, she saw her bed was on fire. The next morning, she left the university and never returned. Of all the paranormal events that surround this girl on fire, the strangest is what happened to the wooden door of Condi's old room. Right after Condi's death, her friends said they saw the image of Condi's burning face appear in the wood. The school administrator had the door replaced, but Condi's face began appearing in the new door. They replaced the door numerous times, but every time, the image of the face came back in the wood. The girls were all so freaked out by this that, eventually, they just removed the door and put it in a storage room. Even today, Condi's room has no door, and none of the girls at Montevallo University will stay in the room, so it remains vacant. The students who live there today still swear that their doors open and close of their own accord, and some have sensed the presence of Condi's ghost coming into their room. Her ghost has even been known to go into the shower areas and scream her head off. The girls say that when she roams the hall, she doesn't do it quietly. She runs and screams through the halls as if she is still on fire. 3. The 4th floor. The 4th floor is a true scary story about a young man who has a chilling experience when he takes an elevator in an old building and it stops on the wrong floor. One evening, I was looking for an internet cafe because I needed to send a few emails. I spotted one in an old building. The sign said it was on the 6th floor. When I walked through the entrance, there was a dark hallway that led to a small elevator. I pressed the call button, and when the doors opened, I stepped inside. In a lot of Asian countries, many buildings do not have a 4th floor. The number 4 is considered bad luck because the word for sounds almost the same as the word for death. The buttons in the elevator were 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. I pressed the button for the 6th floor. The doors closed and the elevator quietly began to ascend. When it stopped and the doors opened, I was about to step out when I realized that something was wrong. The hallway was in total darkness. By the light emanating from the elevator, I could make out random pieces of furniture covered with white cloth. It looked like it hadn't been occupied for decades. I thought I must have gotten the wrong floor, so I checked the buttons, but none of them were lit up. There was nothing to indicate which floor I was on. Just then, I noticed something moving at the end of the darkened hallway. I couldn't quite make out what it was, but it looked like a person dressed in some type of gown. The figure was moving slowly down the hallway, towards the elevator. It creeped me out, and in a panic, I started pressing the closed door button. All of a sudden, the light in the elevator flickered and turned off. I was plunged into pitch darkness. I was so freaked out, I almost wet myself. Just as I was about to lose it completely, the lights flickered and came back on. The doors closed, the elevator jolted back to life and began to ascend again. I breathed a sigh of relief. When the doors opened this time, I was at the internet cafe. I went over to the counter and told the girl who worked there what had happened. As she listened, her face grew pale. She said that some of the customers and a few of her coworkers had experienced something similar. She had never experienced anything herself, but she told me about the history of the building. Apparently, the fourth floor had been a hair salon at one time. It was a prospering business until one of the women who worked there killed herself in the salon. Nobody knew the reason why, but she slit her wrists over a basin and bled to death. The salon continued to operate, but they were plagued by weird and inexplicable events. Sometimes, when customers were having their hair washed, the water would come as red as blood. Other people claimed that when they looked in the mirror, they would catch glimpses of a ghostly figure standing behind them. When they turned around, there would be no one there. Because of these events, the salon developed a bad reputation and began to lose customers. Eventually, they were forced to close down. The building's owner tried to rent the fourth floor out to other businesses, but when they found out that someone had died there, nobody would take it. Finally, the owner reduced the price to nearly nothing and it was rented by a businessman who planned to open a stationery supply store. However, when they tried to do some renovations on the floor, there was a series of mysterious accidents. The workmen's tools would sometimes disappear, only to be found in strange places. A large mirror suddenly shattered when nobody was near it and a workman had his hand crushed when the elevator doors closed on him unexpectedly. Eventually, the workmen were spooked and refused to continue and the businessman pulled out and left. The building's owner gave up trying to rent the fourth floor and just shut it down. He had the buttons in the elevator replaced and it was reprogrammed so that nobody could go to the fourth floor. At least, that's what was supposed to happen. For some reason, when people took the elevator, it would sometimes stop on the fourth floor and when the doors opened, some people would see a figure coming towards them in the darkness.